You asked the questions, so here are the answers. Before I get into answering all your questions, I wanted to give you guys a little update of what's going on. I haven't posted a video in probably 8 days now or something like that. It's been 3 weeks of somebody getting sick in my family every week. When I shot the typhoon video, Mason was sick that weekend. The following weekend, which was last weekend, Megan was sick. And I finally got it this past weekend, and I was out of work for 3 days. So I'm finally feeling better. I'm ready to be back. I'm excited to make some videos. I'm going to put the questions up on the screen as I give the answers. I'm not going to take the time to read every question. I'll let you guys do the reading. I just want to try to make this video not an hour long. So let's get started. I hope the channel does get huge as well. The strangest thing I've eaten is probably some type of squid. I've eaten various different types of squid being over here. And 4 cars that I would bring back to the States, forgetting about the 25-year law, I'd probably have to go with an R34 GTR, an FD RX-7, maybe a DC-5 Integra Type R, and a Mitsubishi Delica. I don't know why, but I love those big, huge zombie vans. I think I am going to start to try to produce stickers more on a mass scale so I can start doing some kind of sticker giveaways or something like that. My wife and my son love it here in Japan. My wife loves the Japanese food and the beaches nearby. My son, he's 3 years old, so this is probably the first thing he's going to remember is being in Japan. And he loves the cars. He really does. He's going to be just like me. Every time we get out of the car and he sees a GTR, he's yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, a GTR." It's pretty awesome. As far as importing cars into Japan, I'm not really sure. I know when I was on my way here, they told me I couldn't bring my FRS, but I was also told from people outside of the military that you could bring it, that it was just a whole lot of paperwork. So I'm not really sure on the import laws. I think it might be something similar though with older vehicles. I think there's a lot of exemptions as far as safety and emission standards, just like when you take cars back to the US, because I do see quite a few older American cars here. So between the R32 and the Evo, bringing that back to the States, I mean, it's kind of real life. I am going to be bringing the R32 back. If the Evo was old enough to go back, I think I would still bring the R32 back just because it's my car and I love it. I'm sure my wife would say the Evo, but definitely the R32. So as far as finding older Skylines, I see quite a few driving around. It's maybe a handful on the island I see driving around, but I do see them on the roads quite often. As far as finding them for sale, I don't think I've seen any here for sale in Okinawa. I know I've seen some for sale online in mainland Japan, but I also know that those have really hiked up in price in the last few years as well. If the R34 was old enough to bring back, I would swap my R32 for an R34. But then again, I don't know. I really like the simplicity, the way the R32 looks. I just love the body lines of them a lot. Recommendations for relatively cheap first cars. If you're in the States, any kind of Honda. My first car that I really enjoyed modding and was really my first tuner type car was a 3rd generation Eclipse. It was an automatic, but it was my first car that I really enjoyed, and it was before I really knew a whole lot about cars. I ended up falling asleep at the wheel and totaling that car, and I ended up getting 2 or 3 Integras, and then I went back and got another Eclipse, the GT version, 5-speed, and did a motor swap on that and everything. But cheap cars, I would have to say Hondas is a good place to start. Integras are super reliable cars, and the Integras I've owned have probably been some of the most fun cars I've driven. Favorite supercar, that's kind of a hard one. I've never really been that into supercars until about 2.5 years ago. I went to Las Vegas for work, and I spent a month there without my family or anything, and I was barely having to go to work at all while I was there. And I actually rented a Lamborghini Gallardo for a couple days, and after renting that and being able to drive it around for 2 days, I'm kind of really wanting a Lamborghini now. So for favorite supercar, I guess I would maybe go with the Lamborghini Aventador. The main island of Okinawa, which I live on, is about 1,207 square kilometers. From the bottom all the way to the northernmost point is probably about a 3.5-hour drive. It's not very big, but it does take forever to get from point A to point B, just because the density, I guess the population density, and the traffic is just insane, and the highest speed limit on the island is, I think, 80 kilometers an hour, so you don't get anywhere very fast. I found my R32 through a Facebook page, Japan Bases Used Car Review, It's a retired Navy guy who runs it, I believe, and he sells a lot of cars to military people here in Japan. I chose that one because I really like the white and I really like the gold TEs that are on it. And at the time, I think it was one of only 3 that he had in stock. So I was kind of just, I don't want to say it was an impulse buy, but I had been looking around for a while and then that one popped up and I knew that was the one. If I had the choice to go back, I would probably still buy it. If I didn't buy it, as far as another car I would choose, would maybe be an FDRX7 or maybe even a Chaser. I really do like the Chasers a lot now. They've really grown on me a lot since I've been here. There's tons of junkyards all over the place. I could name at least 3 or 4 within 5 miles of here where I live. As far as performance shops and stuff like that, other than Up Garage, there's not a whole lot here in Okinawa. There's Speed Factory and Garage Neo, I think. I haven't been there yet, so I can't say too much about that one. But as far as some of the main tuner and performance shops you're thinking of, you're probably thinking of mainland Japan, and I haven't been there yet, so I can't really speak on that too much. So the Evo. It's a 1996, and I don't do a lot of videos with it because I hated the suspension that was on it. It had some TN coilovers on it that were just blown to crap. They were old, they were rusty. Yesterday, I actually replaced those coilovers. I have a new set of TNs on there. They're not new, but they're gently used. I think I mentioned it in another video. I got them for $200, but they're in way better condition than the other ones are. And the car already rides so much better. It pulls to the left a little bit right now. I think I need to go get an alignment because I think the ride height might have changed a little bit. But I will definitely be doing more videos now that the suspension is nice on the Evo and it's actually drivable. Living in Japan is amazing. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm super blessed that I had the opportunity to come out here and live here. It's like any dream you would ever have about Japan, I guess. The car scene is amazing. Every single day I see an awesome car. I can't believe how crazy it is just to see Supras and GTRs and RX-7s and all these amazing cars just passing by constantly. It's going to be weird to go back to the States and not see these everywhere. And other than the cars, the food is just amazing. There's so much here to offer, not even just Japanese food, like Indian curry, the Chinese food, since we're pretty close to China as well, is amazing. Living in Japan is amazing. As soon as I made that comment about that you guys could ask whatever you want, and I said the bathroom, I knew somebody was going to ask. And of course it's Burns Rubber. He was here making videos not too long ago, and he's recently moved back to the States. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, you should definitely go give him a look. He's got some good videos for sure. I did say I would answer any questions, so I guess I do have to answer it. I guess it depends on what I eat that day. We do have a Taco Bell here, so on some days it could be up to 4 to 5 times. I do not have a Tomei exhaust. I love the way those sound, and I think in the future I will get one, but right now I'm just rocking an Apexi. I do want to do some typical like touristy type videos here in Okinawa, and I've kind of started doing that a little bit on my other channel, YourCarBro Vlogs. So if you guys haven't followed that, definitely go check that out. I've been a little bit slow on putting up videos lately just with everybody being sick, and we really haven't done much because everybody's been sick. But I will definitely be doing more videos on that channel. I'll leave the link to the description of that channel in the comments below. Do I live my life 0.8 kilometers at a time? Not really, just because it takes about 5 minutes to probably go 0.8 kilometers here on the streets, and we have no drag strip here. There is the old airfield that I posted the drifting video at, that they do have drag events at sometimes, but I've yet to make it out to one of those. Chevy Cobalts. I've never driven one. I really do like the way the SS's sound, and I think they're pretty quick. But other than that, I really know just about nothing about those cars. I live in Japan through the military, and I met my wife through cars, I guess you could say. We were both into cars back when I lived in South Carolina, and she had a SRT4 Neon, and at the time I had that 3rd generation Eclipse GT that I'd swapped the motor in. We would always race around and stuff like that, and we finally just ended up getting together, and that's how it went. So I guess merch is merchandise, and I do not really have any merchandise yet. I do want to make some shirts. That's something I have on my to-do list to do. And the stickers, I'm going to start trying to produce those more too, so I can sell those or do some giveaways on those. And thank you. I do like my car as well. You can buy a Skyline or an S15 really cheap here. A GTR is going to cost you a decent amount of money, but a regular Skyline like GTST or something like that, you can find those for around $2,000 to $3,000. And the 4-door R34 Skylines or R33s, you can find those for $1,000. The only real hike up on prices are on the GTRs. There's definitely a GTR tax here for sure. As far as S15s go, I've seen them anywhere from around $2,000 to $8,000 depending on their condition and if there's anything done to them. So as far as the reliability and daily driving an R32 GTR, that's something that I do every day now for the past over a year. There's really no problems. There's not much done to my car, just minor bolt-ons, and I've had no real issues in reliability. The clutch went out around the time I got it, but that was something that I think it was sold to me like that because as soon as I got it, the clutch was already going out. I'm in the Air Force and I work with munitions. We build, maintain, and store missiles, bombs, 20 millimeter, anything that goes on the fighter jets we deal with. What's up, Subaru Sam? As far as the car scene here, I think it's pretty much met my expectations. I haven't had the chance to go to mainland and experience that kind of car scene yet, so I think I'll answer this question a little bit more once I get to make my trip to mainland next year. But as far as the Okinawan car scene, it's definitely met my expectations. I'm super happy that there is this big of a car following here, and almost every weekend there's something car related to do. As far as choosing to come here, I kind of did. The way it works in the military, at least in the Air Force, is you have a dream sheet that you basically fill out online in the computer, and if spots open up, then you can potentially get those spots and go to different bases. And as soon as I got my first assignment, which was in Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, that was number one on my dream sheet at the time because I wanted to get moved close to back to where I live. And I spent 3 years there. And during my time there, I decided it was time to try and follow my dream. And basically one of my whole reasons for joining the military was because I really, really did want to go to Japan and heard all these awesome stories of military people going to Japan. So I updated my dream sheet in the computer, and a few months later, I randomly walked into work and somebody had written on one of the whiteboards at work, Konnichiwa Spencer. As soon as I walked in and saw that on the whiteboard, I knew right then that I was going to Japan, and I was definitely like, hell yeah. I do plan on modifying my car. That's something I would definitely like to do. Maybe a big single turbo. I love the way those sound. I don't know, maybe I'll go with bigger twins. I'm really not sure yet, but I'm definitely going to wait until I get back to the States, since right now the R32 has to be my daily driver to get back and forth to work. So I don't want to really mess up the reliability of that. And differences between living here or the US, I mean, I guess obvious ones like language barriers, trying to learn the language, driving on the left side of the road instead of the right. The traffic lights are set up a little differently here too. The list of differences could go on and on, really. All right, so I did say I would answer any question. This one's a little weird. And honestly, I had to Google what that was. So no, I do not. As far as walking around a car auction, I think you have to have some kind of special access for that. If you knew somebody in Japan that has auction access, I'm sure they would take you in as a guest or something like that. But I don't think just normal people like you or I can walk up into an auction and see that kind of stuff. I would love to take my R32 to the track and race it. In Okinawa, we have no real tracks, though. There's a couple little slightly bigger than parking lot type things that people do gymkhana in and do some autocross type racing in. And that's something I am going to try to do now that I have swapped out the brakes on my car and kind of got it running real nice. So you might see some of that in the future from me while I'm here in Okinawa. But definitely when I get back to the United States, I definitely want to take it on Road Atlanta, Carolina Motorsports Park, all those kind of cool tracks in the southeast area. I will not wear a Yankees jersey. I'm not the hugest Red Sox fan. They are my favorite AL team. My big team is the Atlanta Braves. I'm a Red Sox fan because in Greenville we have the Greenville Drive, who are the single A affiliate team of the Red Sox. And growing up, I got to be a bat boy for them. And I got to know and hang out with a lot of the players now that are playing on the Red Sox, or players like Anthony Rizzo who are playing on the Cubs now. So that's the reason I'm a Red Sox fan. But hopefully next year the Braves are doing good. I want to see the Braves do good. It's been a while for them. So I kind of already answered this question maybe a little bit. If I didn't own an R32, I think right now in Japan, if I didn't own an R32, I might would own an FD RX-7. I'm really in a time frame right now where I'm really loving the FDs for some reason. My GTR cost me $15,000 US about a year ago. I do not do any drifting. It is an all-wheel drive car. I can take out the fuse and make it just rear-wheel drive, but it's not really the healthy way to go about doing that for the car. And the R32s aren't really the best drift cars, at least not the GTRs, obviously. Drifting is something I would like to get into, but being here, I can only own one car per licensed driver in my family. So right now the GTR and the Evo are it. Maybe when I get back to the States, I can get a project car for drifting and start trying that out. So far, the R32 has been super reliable. Like I said, I had to replace the clutch right when I got it, and that was about a $1,300 purchase. But other than that, that's really been the only thing I've had to replace on it. I've been performing the normal oil changes every few months. I've been using AMS oil for the most part. Oil change, usually the oil and the filter cost me around $50, $60, something like that. So it's really not that expensive to own, and so far it's been reliable, but like I said, my car isn't one of the most heavily modified R32s out there. All right, so we got Shooting Cars in the house. That's another good YouTube channel. If you guys haven't checked him out, you need to go give him a look. I love watching his videos. And lately, me and him have had a thing where we've been commenting back and forth on each other's videos with Fast and Furious references, so I'm going to try to knock his questions out here. Question number 1, street cred? The Ejectocito cuz is in the work. The wife doesn't know about it though, so we're going to try to keep that on the DL. As far as sandwich goes, I would probably have to say the tuna sandwich, no crust. I have had a few problems like that potentially, but me and the mad scientist ripped the block apart and we did fix all the piston rings I fried. For the most part, the locals treat the Americans good, especially in the car community. There's never really any problem with relations, but there are protests sometimes at the base from locals here, and some people brought over from China, and some paid protesters down from mainland. Some people don't like the bases here, so we do get a few negative views towards the Americans sometimes from locals. I would love to buy a Skyline for my son one day. He loves GTRs just as much as I do, so hopefully I'm in a financial point one day where I can buy him his own. What's up, Devin? Star Wars, I think I'm gonna have to go with that. I've never really been a big Star Trek fan. I can't say that I've ever even watched a whole Star Trek movie all the way through. If I bought a new or extra car, what would it be? While I'm here right now, like I said earlier, I would like to buy a drift car. So maybe I would buy some kind of S13 or something like that. If I wasn't leaning towards a drift car, I think I would want that Mitsubishi Delica I was talking about earlier too. I just love those giant vans, big old turbo diesels. Like I said earlier, I paid $15,000 US for my R32 last year. RB20, 25, or 26, I don't really have much experience with the other two motors. This is the first RB car I've ever owned, so I'm gonna have to go with the RB26. Although I have seen that parts are a lot cheaper for the RB20 and RB25. Greenville or Okinawa? That's not even a fair question. I love Okinawa. It is amazing. It's beautiful. The food and the cars and the people are all awesome. But Greenville's home. I don't know if you can compare something to home and pick the other place as better. I love Greenville. It's a beautiful city. The mountains are 30 to 40 minutes away. The beach is 2.5, 3 hours away. That's not even a fair question. I don't know if I can answer it. If I could maybe pick up just Greenville and move it to Okinawa, maybe then it would be good. But I really don't know. I'm just going to have to go with Greenville, I think, just because it's home. I still actually do have my FRS. It is at my parents' house back in South Carolina waiting on me to get home. Compared to the GTR is obviously more powerful and torquier. The FRS, I can't even remember it. It's been so long since I've driven it. I feel like the GTR probably handles better than the FRS, but the FRS is a super fun car to drive, and it is nice having a new car. This question was kind of asked before as well. I don't know if I'd trade my 32 for a 34. I really do like the 34s a lot, but I think the 32s are still my favorite. I just like the simplicity of all the body lines and how clean they look. As far as the 34 ranked on a list, I don't really have a running list in my head, I guess, but it would probably be in the top 10 somewhere. I don't really watch much anime. If you could consider Initial D anime, that would be the only real anime I guess I would watch. As far as what made me start YouTube, I don't know. I've had a YouTube channel ever since I could first start driving. If you guys want to look back on some of my super old YouTube stuff, look up AtlantaFan447. That was my old account that I don't even know the password to anymore, but that's what I had when I first started making videos. And they weren't even videos like I make now. It was just kind of random stuff. As far as what made me start posting more regularly, I guess is I just want to be able to remember my time in Japan by looking back on my YouTube videos. And I thought it was something everybody else might really like to see too, because there's not that many English-speaking people making YouTube videos in Japan. For me, it won't cost anything for the GTR to be shipped back to the States. The military pays for one car per person. If you're talking about car parts, that's something that I'm kind of in the works with doing a trial run to see how it works. I'm currently sourcing out some parts for a guy, and I'm going to be sending him some parts. I'm just going to try to see how easy of a thing it would be to start up a business like that. If you're talking about just random Japanese things, that might be something that I could do for you. Differences between vehicle regulations here and the US. In South Carolina, there was pretty much no regulations on anything. We didn't have any kind of emissions testing or anything like that. The local cops here are a little more strict, and sometimes we have local nationals guarding the base. And whenever you pass through the gate, they will be a little bit more strict on the tone of your exhaust, how loud it is, and the wheels sticking out on the Evo a little bit. We've gotten some crap from them from that a little bit. So it's definitely a little bit more strict over here as far as modifications go. It really wasn't that difficult learning to drive on the left-hand side of the road and on the right-hand side of the car. It's not really that much different. Everything's just a little bit opposite. I had one instance when I first got here where I did end up pulling into the wrong lane of the road, but that was the only time I've really run into anything like that. The traffic lights are also a little bit different here. As far as turning, you can't left turn on red and stuff like that. It's just a little bit different. It's not really hard to get used to though. So if you couldn't tell, this one is my brother, and Nathan, your beard genes might be a little better than mine, but I do have to shave like every day, so you can't really tell. All right, for these next few, I tried to group some of the questions together that are similar. Obviously, you can see I've already missed some throughout the video. So these ones, I'm going to put a bunch of them up on the screen and try to answer them all in one. I'm definitely nowhere near fluent in Japanese. I do know a little bit of Japanese and can kind of get by on some normal day-to-day things. But close to the bases in Okinawa, whenever you're off base, most people do speak decent English to where you could get around without knowing any Japanese. I do hope to learn more Japanese and become maybe fluent by the time I leave here though, because that would be nice. So I have about another year and a half left. I should be leaving here in around May of 2018. As far as going to another base after this, I'm not sure if I'm going to be staying in the military or not. If I do stay in the military, I do want to go somewhere that's kind of close back to the South Carolina or somewhere in the southeast, maybe Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, something like that. If I do get out of the military, of course, I'll be going back to Greenville, South Carolina and living there. For the process coming back for my car, it's paid for by the military. They put it on a boat and it gets to the States in about a month to 2 months. The Evo is probably going to have to stay here. We'll probably sell it before we leave. We've been talking about maybe paying a company to store it until it's old enough to ship back, but we're not really sure if we're going to do that yet or not. It just kind of depends on where we are financially when it's time to leave here. Unfortunately, I'm not a pilot. I'm sure that would be probably one of the most fun jobs anybody could ever have, and they also make a ton of money. I'm in the Air Force. I am a E4, which is a senior airman. I've been in for about 5 years next month. My job is munition systems. I'm ammo. We deal with any kind of ammo that goes on the fighter jets, any kind of aircraft that has any sort of ammo or countermeasures. That's what I do. We build those, we maintain them, we store them, all that kind of stuff. Serving in the military in Okinawa is cool. It has its downfalls though, just because you can never really escape that military lifestyle. Just because we're on a pretty small island and there's so many military people here that you can't really get away and feel like you're not a part of the military at all times. Whenever you're in the States, you know, you can drive 2-3 hours down the road and be in a town that's not military whatsoever and has no kind of military feel to it. Sometimes it's just nice to escape that. As far as mods go right now, the only thing done to the GTR is Apexi intakes. I have a downpipe, no name, I can't remember the name on it. A Apexi catback exhaust. It has BR coilovers, a Grady boost gauge, and I think it's also a Grady boost controller, and I believe a Grady turbo timer. I can't remember the name brands on all the stuff because I didn't do it. It was all done to the car when I got it. As far as future mods go, I do want to build the car. That's something I would definitely like to do once I get back to the States and I don't have to worry about the reliability of it so much for every day, because I'm going to try to not have it as my daily driver whenever we get back to the States. As far as future plans for the Evo, like I said earlier, I did fix the coilovers on it yesterday, so it's already riding so much better. I don't know what other mods we might do to it while we're here. Probably not a whole lot unless we plan on taking it back. Right now, it's just kind of the family car, the point A to point B car. The green that is on the car, I did have done since I bought the car. It is Halo Effects. The color is mil-spec green. Halo Effects is very similar to Plasti Dip. It's peelable. The white paint is still perfectly intact underneath. I've had it on there for about 7 to 8 months now, I think, and it's held up pretty well. I think I might be peeling it off soon, though. There are some spots that are starting to kind of chip up, so I think I might go back to white soon. I'm not really sure why cars are cheaper in Japan. I guess it would just be because of supply and demand. There's so many of them over here, and there's not that big of a demand for them because these are just cars to everybody over here, at least Japanese people. It's the cars they've grown up seeing. It's normal cars to them. In the States, you see them, and it's something that you don't get to see much of. I think even with the RX-7, where it was produced for the States and for Japan, I think that they're just a little bit more expensive still in the States because I think it's just a little bit more of a novelty item still in the States than it is here in Japan. Personally, I'd probably go with the Evo 10 just because I do like Evos, but I really do like the E46 M3 a lot. So that's going to have to be something you figure out on your own. I would probably lean a little bit more towards the Evo. And as far as import costs for a Skyline, I think to actually get a car from Japan to the States is anywhere from around $3,000 to $5,000. So you're just going to have to add that on top of whatever car you're thinking about buying's value, and somebody you're going to have to pay a middleman in there between too. Best starter drift car, I'm really not too sure just because I haven't drifted much myself. The only drifting I've done would probably be in the FRS, and that was super limited, just back road messing around type stuff. Best starter though, I would have to go with some sort of S chassis just because they're cheap and easy to build. As far as the JDM lemon drink you're talking about, I'm not really sure. Maybe you're talking about lemon tea. That's a big thing over here, and myself and my son both consume a lot of that. I do like RX-8s. I've never driven one, and I wasn't the biggest fan of them before, but they've really grown on me a little bit since owning an FRS, since they're kind of direct competitors with the FRS. I always thought the RX-8s would be too underpowered and not really be a fun car, but that's what a lot of people say about the FRS too, so I imagine the RX-8 is a fun car to drive, and it does look good as well. I'll try to feature more of those in videos as I see them at car meets and stuff. My first car was a 1996 Buick Century. I kind of inherited that from a death in the family. After that car, my dad bought me a S10 Blazer, and that was a fun car that I enjoyed a lot. After the S10 Blazer, I got my first car that I actually kind of enjoyed as a tuner car. It was a 2000 Eclipse RS. It was automatic. I was young, kind of dumb, but it introduced me to the world of imports and tuners and stuff like that. I totaled that car, falling asleep at the wheel and hitting a telephone pole. After that, I bought my first Integra. I can't remember the year on that one, and it wasn't the GSR. Drove that around for a little while and then sold it and bought another Eclipse, the 2001 Eclipse GT that I bought. And it was a 5-speed, and I ended up swapping the motor on that one to the 3.5 liter V6 out of the Mitsubishi Diamantes. Sold that. I bought another Integra. It was a GSR. Spent quite a lot of money into that. Painted it white, wheels, lowered it, Recaro seats. I put a lot of Integra Type R parts in it. And then I sold that and bought an S2000. Loved my S2000. That was one of the most fun cars I've ever driven and owned. I totally regret getting rid of it. I got rid of that for a 2012 Civic Si. That was also a really good car. That was the first car Mason got to experience. That was his first car whenever he came home from the hospital. I eventually traded that in and got a 2013 WRX. That was another incredible car to own. We had to get rid of that before we came here. And I also bought the 2013 FRS that I have still at home waiting on us to get back. I do want to do a grand tour type thing of Japan before I leave. Next year is going to be our chance to visit mainland. What I want to do is I want to put the GTR on a ferry boat and take it up to mainland. It's like a 2-day ferry boat ride, I think. You have to sleep on the ferry and all that kind of stuff. And then we'd get off at the very southernmost tip of mainland, and I want to drive all the way across Japan and do a road trip type thing and hit up all the spots. Trying to convince the wife into that. We'll see how that goes. If we don't end up doing that, then we're going to fly somewhere like Tokyo or Osaka and then take the train throughout different cities in Japan and try to see as much as we can. I would love to permanently relocate to Japan after the military, but I've heard that's pretty much a hard thing to do unless you marry a Japanese local or something like that and get dual citizenship. Building a car with my son is definitely a dream of mine, and I hope that's something that we can do when he gets a little bit older. What's going on, man? To answer your question, I'm not really too sure. I actually had to Google what ryokens were. I guess that's a traditional Japanese inn type thing, but I'm not really sure how you would locate those type of things other than just using Google. And as far as traveling to other places like the outlets you were talking about, I'm also kind of clueless on that. If you get your international driver's license before you leave and come to Japan, you can rent a car here for sure. Hey. Anyways, like I was saying, if you get that international driver's license, most rent-a-car places here will accept that, and that's definitely an easy way to get around. I'm sorry I couldn't be a little more helpful on your question, but I haven't really experienced much of that either. The E36 325, I don't really have much BMW experience. I've never owned one. I do like the way the E36 looks a lot though. So I think I briefly mentioned this earlier. I bought my GTR through a Facebook page, Japan Bases Used Car Review. They sell a lot of cars to military people here in Japan. My dream car, that's really a hard one too. My dream car constantly changes. I feel like my dream car used to be like an R32 GTR or some sort of Skyline, and now I've accomplished that. So maybe right now my dream car would be an R35 GTR, maybe a Lamborghini Aventador or something like that. My dream cars constantly change. As far as the next car I buy, it'll probably be something that I can daily drive whenever I make it back to America, so I don't have to daily drive the GTR around. And I'm gonna lean towards something a little bit cheap to begin with probably, so maybe a DC2 Integra, something like that. I think the value of the R34s are gonna continue to rise, even after they become 25 years old and they're legal in the United States. I think from there they're just gonna continue to rise as they get older. I definitely think it would be a good investment if you have the money now, but I also think they've also started to skyrocket in price. So I think it's gonna cost you a pretty penny to start that investment now. Why didn't the Seahawks run the ball? I think that's a question a lot of us were asking last year. I don't think anybody really knows though. So living in Okinawa puts me pretty far away from everything that you guys are probably gonna know. So like Fukushima and all that nuclear disaster, I believe that's about 1,500 miles from where I'm at. It's a 3-day trip. It's across the ocean. It's pretty far away. Thanks. And thank all of you for all the awesome questions you guys had. It's awesome to get this kind of response from a Q&A video. I really did enjoy it. It's something I'll probably do again in the future just because I love answering questions for you guys and getting feedback on all my videos. So thank you guys for sticking around on this long video of me answering questions, and please continue to come back. Now that I'm feeling better and that the family's not all sick, we're gonna be getting out and doing things. A little update on the Drive Tribe thing. I've got a few more emails back from them, and the website is supposed to go live November 6th. And they want me to have 6 pieces of video or pictures or blogging type post to post on the website when it goes live. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do for that. I hope that I'm able to embed my YouTube videos in their website just so I can continue growing on YouTube as well. I'm gonna give the Drive Tribe a shot to begin with, and I will definitely keep you guys updated and post links whenever my Drive Tribe is created. Also, a question for all of y'all. I'm thinking about purchasing a drone sometime soon. What drone do you suggest I buy? I know GoPro is coming out with their drone here in a couple days. I know the Phantom 4 is out. Mainly I've been looking at the Phantom 3 Professional just because it's a little cheaper than the Phantom 4, and it's still basically the same thing. I think the 4 has a little bit more flight time and is a little bit faster, but the quality is still the same. And I know DJI came out with another drone as well. It's a more compact one. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's supposed to be a lot smaller than the Phantoms. So you guys let me know if you have any experience with drones, and let me know which one you think I should buy. Thank you all for all the support you guys give me. The YouTube channel continues to grow. I believe we're around 3,300 subscribers right now. It's super awesome to see it grow, and I really can't wait to take it to the next level. Making videos here in Japan is awesome, and this is all going to continue to. When I leave Japan, all of these videos are going to continue when I get back to the States. So you guys keep coming back for more, and as always, thank you for watching.